and welcome to the Earthdawn Survival Guide, a podcast for all disciplines, paths, players, and game masters, and enthusiasts like Josh and myself. I am Dan.
I am Josh. I had to wait there a moment because a car was going by my window, and it is hot. It is hot up here in Maine today.
Tarzan kind of hot.
Hot and wet. I will
Africa
not continue
hot. Tarzan
that
couldn't take this kind of heat.
It's a little, from
Biloxi Blues?
from Good Morning Vietnam.
Oh.
It gets a little vulgar.
Oh, there you go. I was doing Biloxi Blues. Matthew Broderick.
So
yeah,
I've got
okay. We can get vulgar
the fan
if we want
going,
to, but we're not going to.
And the window open. I actually have the gain set so that the fan is not being picked up too much by my microphone. But I got enough good room tone beforehand that I should be able to noise reduction that out. But there may be points where I'll have to pause if things are getting rowdy outside or cars going by because...
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh, the sausage making of podcasting.
Anyway.
On tonight's podcast, we'll be discussing all things quizzical and shamanical, because we're going to do Shaman Spells right after we handle some quick emails. And next episode will be our all dragon episode. Probably.
Yeah.
Spoiler, part 1.
We'll have to see what ends up happening with that. We got a lot of email, a lot of it delivered, a lot of questions as we asked for.
Well, we asked for
a lot of it delivered last minute because we changed our normal recording day.
That's fine.
To accommodate Dan's schedule. And I posted a reminder. I said, hey, I know I said it was Wednesday. We're actually going to be doing it Tuesday. Please, if you wanted to have questions potentially addressed, send them in. And we did get them.
Mm-hmm. And not only that, we scraped the bottom of the barrel from the Earthdawn Guild, where we posted that.
We scraped the Earthdawn Guild. I don't know that I would not go and say it's the bottom of the barrel.
Sorry, my phrasing was wrong.
We will at least bring up all of the questions. I will not promise answers to all of them. But that...
I will speculate, however, but I'm not officially involved in the game.
That is for another time.
Yes. So, on to the emails we got that are non-dragon related. Yes. Josh and Dan, I love listening to the show. Since lockdown, I've had a commute or traveled very much for work, so I'm behind. I've been listening since the beginning, though, and working on my way to current. I was just listening to episode 61, and you mentioning some of the work I was doing updating the illusionist spells. I don't think this sentence was typed correctly. You good attribution wrong? I'm not upset, but just thought I'd let you know.
Yeah. So
this is Traveling Wizard.
At one point, yeah. There was an email that may have come in or I don't remember now. I didn't go back and listen to the episode to remember exactly. Fair. There is somebody that was doing a project where they were updating some older spells to 4th edition. The person that I thought was doing it is not, in fact, the person that is doing it. The person that I thought was doing it is the person who sent this email.
Not the person you attributed it to.
Not the person who is actually doing it.
Gotcha.
They might have had similar first names. I don't remember at this point. Mea culpa, my apologies. As of right now, I think there are 2 disciplines that have had spells be updated for 4th edition. Okay. If you are in the Earthdawn Guild on Facebook, I'm pretty sure that links to the documents have been posted.
Gotcha. Okay. So this was Matthew, P.S., the Traveling Wizard on Discord and other places. I blog sometimes about Earthdawn stuff. I'm working slowly on updating the spells, but it's still in my project list. There wasn't many page views on it, so I backburnered it. I have a couple of other projects, so he's working on and hoping to release them soon. Also, he's the one that was helping Lars with the desktop edition of the Steps character sheet.
Okay.
Thank you, Matthew.
It's good.
Yeah, love Steps.
The desktop edition of Steps is cool.
Top notch.
I'm running a mini series for some folks like once or twice a month, and we're using the desktop version of Steps for them to kind of track their characters and stuff.
It does the math for you on circling up. It's fantastic. Highly recommend it. Really I have players that are loving it as well. So on to the second one. Our good old friend, Lemon Crafton Jr. Hello, Dan and Josh. I'm moving along with the podcast, currently finished 63. So, Matthew, he's got you beat by 2. Come on, man, catch up. And wanted to tell you about a cool thing that was in my previous Earthdawn game in regard to the Death's Sea area, since we asked for stories. At Circle 3, we were exploring one of the Theran flying fortresses that had crashed pre-surge and was lost. Inside it, we found a kitchen that had an enslaved fire elemental trapped in the stove. Ignoring his name, Valtrix the Hungry, we freed it for the price, air quotes, of a future payment, helping make an enchanted item. If we found him, quote, where the Scarlet Sea meets the Mist Swamps within a year and a day, he would use his power to help us with an item. And while sadly the campaign ended before we could go there, my weaponsmith began planning a heart blade, which would have been forged with the elemental's help. I just thought this was a very cool idea and thought to share. Thanks, and keep the podcast going, Limon. And thank you, Limon, for the offer of customizing our characters. It's been busy for me. I'll hit you up later. It's been a little busy.
It is, yes.
So, last email. This is from Lee, frequent emailer to us. Hi, guys. Sorry, don't have any questions, sensible ones at least, for this topic. Just dropping a line to let you know I will be listening in, as normal, to the awesome work you both put into this. It might be an idea for future topics to also create an announcement on Discord and social medias, i.e., EDSG podcast questions wanted for XYZ topics. Send your emails by a certain date, month, year. Additional awareness could spark additional interest and new listeners. Anywho, thank you. Looking forward to listening in. Lee. Not a bad idea. It's so simple. Why didn't we think of it?
That does require us to... I mean, we do sort of have a list of topics planned.
Kinda.
And we generally, decide, or Dan decides the day of or the day before what we're going to end up covering. Having the announcement of the Dragons episode be as forewarned as it was is a little bit unusual for us, in part because we knew a lot of people had mentioned that when we had the Dragons episode, or if we were going to do a Dragons episode, to let them know in advance so they could get their questions in. But yeah, maybe we can figure out the next couple of episodes and say, hey, these are the topics coming up. If anybody has topics that they want us to cover, of course, they are free to contact Dan or myself or the official Earthdawn Survival Guide Twitter feed on social media to say, hey, it would be really cool if you would cover this topic, because we are not locked into any firm schedule. And if people want to hear about something, we can do it. They could send us an email to do that too. What's that email address?
EDSGpodcast@gmail.com. I didn't even use my notes for that one anymore. I've memorized it now after 74 episodes.
We've got,
mentioning it once or twice,
I think the practice is doing us some
apparently
good.
Repetition's a thing. I don't know. It must be. Yeah, I have to plan out what we're going to talk about, because I don't have Josh's steel trap memory for this stuff. I have to go research it and go, oh, right. I forgot all about this. I knew it 20 years ago. I knew it 15 years ago. I stopped knowing it 10 years ago, so I have to research.
I don't know that I would say steel trap memory. Perhaps it is a little rusty. I describe my memory more like a sewer grate, which is to say all sorts of stuff passes through it and it holds onto the garbage.
Well, your favorite topic is Queen Alakia, and she is a garbage person, so... there is that. Anyway, that covers the first 8 minutes of the episode. On to Shaman Spells. Rounds out our development of how, when you finally make your character, because we did a Shaman episode, did all 15 circles of the Shaman episode on...
We did.
The other paths are coming, promise, but we didn't talk about spells, because that was going to make it like a double-length episode. We couldn't do that. So we've done all of the other 4 spellcasters in how to pick your spells for your initial character creation, first circle, and maybe into second circle. So we're doing the breakdowns for all the spells. It's time to hit the Shaman. It's probably, I can't say long overdue, but it's a little quicker on the heels of the regular spellcasters, the better-known spellcasters than most.
One thing that I do want to mention before we start getting into the individual spells, and if you compare the spell design of the Shaman spells to those of the other 4 magician disciplines that are in the player's guide, you will notice some design fundamental differences. Fundamental design differences. Differences, design fundamental. I don't know how many different ways I can order those words around. Which is to say that a lot of the beneficial or more neutral spells have a fixed target number for casting, rather than targeting the mystic defense of allies, as opposed to the spells from the earlier disciplines. This represents the result of lessons and experience that came about from feedback on the original spells, but also just what ended up happening in terms of the design and stuff that Morgan has been doing with trying to refine the process and make things work better, differently, more streamlined,
Fluidly.
consistently. Yeah, it's a lot of spells that would normally have been against the target's mystic defense that are enhancements or buffs or whatever, now just have a fixed target number, which beautifully sidesteps the whole question of reducing mystic defense and the optional rule that we talked about in the previous full episode, where we were talking about that optional rule.
Mm-hmm.
So some of that stuff does come up in here, and I suspect that there are even more lessons learned from the work he did on the Shaman spells that will lead to further refinements and improvements in the spells that he is working on for
the magic book.
Deeper Secrets.
Absolutely. So one of the things I want to point out first about the Shaman spells, before we get into the actual, first one that there is that some of these have a leading word to tell you exactly what they work off of. So some of them say pack.
Yes.
Some of them say spirit. Some of them are both pack and spirit. And that goes back to the pack leadership ability that the shamans get at Fifth Circle.
Right. Those are keywords that are used as well. I mean, they're different than the keywords used in other spells, but for example, the elementalist spells will frequently have a keyword that indicates if it is associated with a particular element, then the keyword will indicate that, because if it's a fire spell, then it would be resisted or affected by fire resistance or other effects along those lines. And so that sort of thing is what's going on. But the keywords in the shaman spells connect into the shaman abilities that they get as part of their
they got a pack leadership ability at Fifth Circle. And so when the adept casts a spell with a pack keyword, they can spend 1 strain per target to affect up to all named targets within the range of the spell. But the adept must pay 1 additional karma point per target if the spell has the binding keyword. This is 1 casting of the spell despite the number of targets affected. Using this ability replaces the normal number of targets for the spell. The extra threads cannot be increased the number of targets. So those are there. Some of them still do have the word spirit. So those are going to be fun.
Yes.
Anyway, on to the First Circle spell. Alphabetically speaking, alarm is there. And I remember this one, I think, being previously a wizard spell.
It's possible. One of the things that was done as part of the Shaman from the ground up redesign with 4th edition was to give them their own spells.
Yes.
In 1st edition, in previous editions, the spell list available to Shaman was a
cobbled together
miscellany of appropriately themed spells from various other disciplines. That there were not any unique Shaman spells, that the Shaman was presented there as a tribal, more primitive caster who had spells from various disciplines that were appropriate. With 4th edition, they have their own spell list. They have their own unique and special spells that are thematically linked to the idea of the shaman as presented in the Mystic Paths book. Some of the spells that they get were spells that in previous editions belonged to other disciplines, but were really thematically appropriate for the shaman, and so no longer belong to the previous discipline. They are now shaman spells.
Only shaman spells.
Yes.
So they've been moved over. So alarm is a 2-thread spell. So we're starting off right now with some serious mojo going on this one.
It is a First Circle spell that has a duration of hours.
Yeah.
It is sort of what the name says it is. It's a ward of a sort. It allows you to cover an area, and when the spell possibly detects somebody crossing the area that it is affected, it will set off an alarm.
Yeah, it's like a perimeter alert. That's all it is.
Yes.
They cross into your realm, you know that they're there. Congratulations. Fantastic spell. I love this one. I've used it on occasion, so it's nice to have.
It doesn't actually cover a large area.
No.
Really, what you do with it is you set it in a place that things are likely to cross to trigger it, or you could conceivably cast it multiple times to set multiple locations, but the base area that it covers is only a 4-yard radius or 8-yard diameter, so only about 25 feet.
Mm-hmm.
You could conceivably, if everybody's kind of close together in a camp, you could kind of protect your camp, but by the time that the alarm would trigger to let people know that there's problems, then things are kind of already on top of you.
Especially if they're coming at you fast.
So generally, because it does have a 50-yard range, you can cast multiple versions of it, and kind of, if you've got a sort of semi-defensive location, you can kind of target the area, the most common, most likely approaches, and go from there.
Yeah, I always cast like 6 of them in a hexagonal pattern, so I had this little honeycomb going on, so that the center of the camp was in between all 6 of those. They were encircled by it, so that's how I did it. That's just my 2 cents there.
I mean, it doesn't take that long to cast. It's not a ritual spell.
Nope.
It just takes 2 threads, and the duration is rank hours, so it's not, at low circles, it's not something that you're probably going to end up using too much to protect your camp overnight.
No, but you can use it in other places.
But once you get up into higher circles, or if you're in a situation where you just are taking a break or doing something like that, then you can put this down to alert yourself or your group of potential problems.
Yeah, great for doorways, great for windows, until you can cast it long enough to do an overnight camping so everyone can heal up. But still, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a base difficulty 6. There's no mystic defense that's being targeted.
Mm-hmm.
And each additional success does increase the duration by an hour.
Yeah.
And an extra thread can do the same. So it is certainly possible that even at low circles, especially if you're setting it up towards the end of the day, and you've got karma left in your pool, you can spend a karma point on the spellcasting test to improve the odds of getting those extra successes and increasing the duration.
Yeah. More useful than you would think. And again, not just for camping and setting up camp. It's useful in lots and lots of places.
Potentially, yeah.
I promise. Hunter's Sense. This is a pack spell.
Yes. Meaning it has the potential for the shaman to cast it on the group.
But it's also 0 threads.
It extends a kind of magical sense around and detects the presence of animals and the general direction that they are in.
Mm-hmm.
The spellcasting test has to beat the mystic defense of the creature in order to of the animal in order to detect it. It does not detect name givers, undead, horrors, horror spawn. Like, it basically just detects normal animals and magical animals.
Yeah.
You know, like storm wolves or lightning lizards and things like that. Those would still be considered animals for the purposes of this spell.
Gotcha. So, still very useful.
At least I would.
Yeah. I would allow that as well. It's an animal, yes, because it doesn't fall under name givers, undead, horrors, or horror constructs. So therefore, everything else. A pack of blood bees. Absolutely, it'll find that.
Blood bees are potentially considered horror spawn.
Okay, sorry. Never mind.
Potentially. I would need to actually look up the description. It depends on what chapter of the Game Master's Guide they're in.
Gotcha.
But it still might say otherwise. But blood bees are a potential, maybe not covered.
Oh, let me go find out now, because now I've piqued my own.
Now we want to know.
Now I want to know.
Blood bee 261 of the GM's Guide.
Yeah, that's actually just in...
Which is actually
creatures.
In the creatures chapter. So I guess...
I'll allow it.
If you are allowing like other magical creatures
Brithans,
to be affected by the spell, then blood bees, I guess, would be as well.
There we go.
Because it doesn't specify that they are horror constructs or anything like that.
Cool. Insect repellent. Now, was this Nethermancer before?
This was originally a Nethermancer spell, yes.
Making sure. Yay, 2 for 2. But it's a single thread spell, so not bad for
it's a single thread spell. It provides... I mean, it drives insects and other small arthropods away, and as a result provides bonuses to tests that might result from environmental conditions where such things are a problem or a hazard. But like Hunter's Sense, does not affect horrors, horror constructs, undead, or any powers deriving therefrom.
But look at the 1-2 punch about blood bees. Hey, look, I use my Hunter's Sense to find out where they are, and then I cast insect repellent to keep them away from me.
Blood bees are kind of on the edge of the size allowed by this spell. It does say roughly a human fist or smaller.
Oh, yeah, blood bees are huge.
Are 2 feet long. So that is
never
one
mind.
heck of a...
Never mind.
That's a big fist. So I don't think it would affect anything. I don't think it would really do anything against blood bees.
I agree, and I will not allow that. So yes. So there's our clarification on the insect repellent and hunter's sense. All 3 so far very good spells to have for first circle. So our next 0 thread spell is Invoke Crow Tear.
Crow Tear, actually.
Tear.
Because this is a damage dealing spell. This is an attack spell.
Oh! Right.
Summons...
And it's also a spirit.
Yeah, summons a crow spirit that flies and causes damage to the target.
Mm-hmm.
Briefly, like it basically sort of like briefly summons this spirit, and the spirit flies and does damage. It is similar to the other 0 thread damage spells that other magicians have. It does physical, so it's roughly equivalent damage to Earth Darts, the Elementalist spell. I think it's actually 1 step lower in terms of its base damage, because Earth Darts has the armor reducing capability. But Invoke Crow Tear causes partial blindness, so inflicts that penalty on the target because the spirit goes after the target's eyes.
Yeah, and you got to know your blindness penalties on that one, because that's those are severe.
They can be. It's -2, I think.
I think so.
It's in the combat chapter in the combat modifiers chapter of the player's guide.
Yeah, exactly. And along with the Crow Tear, now we have Invoke Leopard Pounce.
This is the other damage spell available at first circle. Also
a spirit spell. And also 0 threads.
Yeah, it is the same damage. It's physical willpower +4 damage, but causes potential knockdown.
Yeah, that's the kicker.
That in addition to suffering the damage, the target needs to make an immediate knockdown test against the result of the damage test.
Yes. And not being knocked down.
The difference and the other sort of minor differences is that Invoke Crow Tear, the extra successes on the spellcasting test increase the duration of the blindness penalty, whereas Leopard Pounce increases the damage on a successful test. Invoke Leopard Pounce is, I think, from what I've seen online, probably one of the most popular first circle shaman spells, because knockdown is such a nice effect to put upon your enemies, and having spellcasting tests do more damage, having spells do more damage when you successfully cast them is also very popular.
Yeah, it's brutal. I love it, but it's brutal.
It is a relatively short range. It's only 10 yards. So you do kind of need to be up and in the mix in order to be using that. So there is a little bit of a downside, potentially, that goes along with that.
Moonglow. Now, I think this is
Wizard originally.
I want to say Wizard or Illusionist.
Might have been Illusionist. You're right.
Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't count on me being right this time.
Yeah. Anyway. This is Earthdawn's version of the standard light spell.
Mm-hmm.
It creates a little sphere of light that is equivalent to torchlight. So it would change like a full dark penalty to a partial darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Or partial darkness to...
useful. Yeah.
It is definitely useful. Not super bright, not great for doing like extended, precise work, but definitely enough to light up a cavern or room or something like that to make it a little bit easier
want to
see
read
what's going
by
on.
It, but you can at least see an enemy coming at you. We'll say that. This sounds new as well. It's also Otter Swim is a pack and a spirit spell.
So this is a spell that, much like some of the other magician spells that provide enhancements to other talent or skill tests, like Crunch Climb, which gives a bonus to climbing tests.
Mm-hmm. Wall Walker.
Or Wall Walker, which does the same thing. Or Shadow Meld. Is that the name of it? There's the Nethermancer spell that provides bonuses to Stealthy Stride tests.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Otter Swim does a similar sort of thing in terms of providing a bonus to swimming tests and increases the rate that you move while swimming. Unfortunately, Obsidimen, it doesn't do anything for Obsidimen. They still can't swim, even under the effect of this spell. But it also, like some of the other sort of spirit... But this is not a binding spell, technically.
Yeah.
But It does behave similarly to other spells that involve a spirit, where you need to kind of follow certain restrictions or the effect ends. That being in this case that the bonus only lasts while you're in the water. If you get out of the water for more than a couple of rounds, then the spirit goes away.
Yeah.
And who doesn't love otters? I actually saw a video earlier today of a mama otter teaching her baby how to swim. She grabbed the back of the neck of the baby otter and basically dragged him into the water and was like diving and surfacing with the otter in her, with the baby in her mouth, basically teaching them, like, then you go under, you need to, and you breathe, and you know, and then they kind of, and then she dragged him out onto the beach. This was from a zoo, I think, or something like that, because it was like an artificial beach, and the baby just looked like not impressed. It was horrible.
I didn't want to do that at all. Thanks, Mom. Pack tactics, because of course, shaman animals. Here we go. So another zero thread spell.
Another zero thread spell. This is probably another super popular shaman spell. Invokes or causes the effect of the pack abilities that wolves have as a creature, which is to say that it provides bonuses to attack and damage against the designated target.
Nice. Yeah, I call this nickname Dogpile. Kidding. But yes.
You designate a target with the spell, and while the duration lasts, everybody that is attacking them gains bonuses to attack and damage, which is really nice. And you combine that, because it lasts for rounds, start off with that, and then you invoke Leopard Pounce and knock them down, and it just... The potential combat combinations that can come about from a shaman are a little bit scary when you think about it.
That's a good thing. I like those, because the extra threads are not only, you can do duration or effect or area. So it's, that's very versatile for a spell at first circle, zero threads, I'm going to say. And it's a simple casting of just 6. Doesn't have to hit the target's mystic defense, just 6. That's all. So not bad. So on to, I have to say this one properly, Prey Senses, Prey. Also a pack spell, also a spirit spell, 1 thread.
Yeah. This is a spell that provides bonuses to awareness and danger sense tests. It sort of imbues the target with the spirit of an appropriate animal to enhance their senses and give them those bonuses. And the target does take on a little bit of the features of the chosen animal while the spell is in effect.
Nice.
So they might, their eyes might become more like a bird, or they might get sort of fuzzy ears or that sort of thing.
Yeah. All good. The last of the first circle spells for shamans, Weather Cloak.
This is another one that I think was ported over from another discipline in a previous edition. Sounds
this doesn't ring a bell to me though, so that's fine.
It provides bonus to the weather, to the elements. Provides bonuses to tests made to resist the effects of heat or cold caused by the weather. It also does provide some bonus to spells that kind of mimic weather effects, like the Death Rain spell from the Elementalist.
Yeah.
The bonus that it provides to tests is converted to an armor bonus in that case to help resist the damage that the spell provides.
Not bad for your first circle spells. We've got what? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4.
You got a couple of damaging spells. You've got
you got 10 spells, and I think 5 of them are zero threads.
And then you've got some nice sort of environmental and utility spells that do some stuff that's not really covered quite so well. That's not really covered as much in the other disciplines, in part because they were spells that were other disciplines initially and in earlier editions and brought over to the shaman.
Yeah. So which of these do you think would be the least useful right out of the gate? We covered a couple that were very useful. So let's try to go the reverse direction and see which one's the least useful. I think Insect Repellent is probably...
Insect Repellent is incredibly circumstantial. If you're not going to be dealing with the kind of environmental situations where you're going to be suffering penalties from swarms of gnats or other things like that, then you probably won't need that. Alarm, while incredibly useful in some respects, is also another one that I think is a little bit more circumstantial in terms of its utility. Otter swim.
Otter swim is the same. Yeah.
I mean, it's cool. You get imbued with the spirit of otter and can swim better as a result. I mean, that's pretty cool. Like I said, who doesn't love otters?
Who doesn't want to lay in your back in the river and eat on your stomach?
Yeah, if you're not going to be dealing with a lot of waterborne adventures or aquatic scenarios, it's probably not going to be particularly useful. And if you've got an Obsidian in the group, then it's going to be of no use to them whatsoever.
But that's nothing new. So.
But all of them have their use in particular areas. Hunter's sense, maybe, because at least until you start, like, its area of effect isn't huge. I mean, it's a 20-yard radius, so a 40-yard, 120-foot area around that you kind of detect it. So
that's not too bad.
That's not too bad.
Yeah.
Going into a situation where you suspect such a thing might be useful, it absolutely can be.
Yeah.
Pack tactics, invoke leopard pounce. Those are probably the top ones, and everything else after that is gravy.
Yeah, understand. So, as we have done with every other magician discipline up until this point, and through this point, since you can, it is possible to pick up a second circle spell upon character creation, not necessarily to cast it, but just to hold on to it when you get to second circle and just, hey, you've got it. We'll cover all the second circle spells as well, because I think there's like 5 more here, so that's not too bad. 6 more. No, 5 more. So, Ferocity is another pack spell. 0 threads. Look at that. A whole bunch of 0 thread spells for shamans, man.
This is a spell similar to Combat Fury.
If there's an equivalent type thing.
Yeah, I don't remember whether Combat Fury actually made it to 4th edition or not, now off the top of my head.
I don't think it has yet, but that was an awesome spell.
It might be that it was retooled and is now the Shaman Spell and renamed and reskinned to be more animalistic to fit with the shamanic theme. But
this reads like Combat Fury to me.
Yeah, it provides +3 bonuses to close combat attack tests and unarmed damage during the duration. Yep. Because it's unarmed damage, it's not like it enhances...
Super useful?
Yeah, it enhances Beastmasters. You know, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and the Gauntlet.
And the Gauntlet, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But it would...
and anybody who just happens to take unarmed combat as a
not that
skill.
There are a whole lot of those.
Yeah, some people do take unarmed combat just if you want to do a bar fight and not really draw blood, unarmed combat. But I have a bunch of characters who take it as a backup just in case they drop their sword. Not sword masters, but I have a couple of people who've done that. So it's a very useful spell. Hero's Feast.
Yes, this is a healing spell.
Mm-hmm. This resembles Plant Feast.
It does resemble Plant Feast a little bit. This one is a little bit different. It is narratively designed to help build the rapport and companionship within a group, kind of playing into the pack themes.
The camaraderie.
And the camaraderie, the pack themes of the shaman. The meal that is consumed while the spell is in effect. The recovery test is allowed for each target of the spell, and they get a +2 bonus to that recovery test. And that bonus can actually increase based on the effectiveness of the spell.
Fair.
The targets of the spell must be loyal to each other.
And really, this is the first limitation I've seen in a while where it's only able to be cast once per day.
Yes.
Because how often do you feast? You can't have a feast for all 3 meals. That's just excessive. Gluttonous almost.
And it does have a variable thread count. The shaman needs to weave a thread for each person that is going to be targeted by the spell. This is kind of a ritual magic kind of situation.
Fair. On to the second to the last one, because this next one is long.
Well, no, there's 3 spells. There's 3 spells left.
Oh, 3? Sorry, I can't count. My fault. Yeah, Mark of the Boar, another 0 thread spell, but a binding spell and a pack spell. This is the first binding we've got.
This is similar to the Elementalist and Nethermancer spells that are also bindings. It summons a spirit and binds them into a willing target, providing them bonuses, but also restricting in some ways the behaviors that they can take. This is also a pack spell, which means that with their appropriate abilities, the shaman can put it on an entire group. Mm-hmm. What this spell does is it imbues them with a boar spirit that basically reverses wound penalties. It turns wound penalties into bonuses. This is similar
what I was
to
gonna say. Here's your catch.
Yeah, this is like the ability that Cadaver Men get in 4th edition, where wounds on Cadaver Men actually provide bonuses to their attack and damage. There are other creatures that get it as well.
Yes, but that's just the obvious example.
Yep.
So yeah,
it also provides bonuses to aggressive attack, but the target must use aggressive attack every round
as the combat option, yeah.
And also can only move towards an enemy. You get a spirit in you that basically wants to go kill things, and it provides some bonuses to make that better.
Yeah, there is one little caveat though. If the spell prematurely ends for any reason, you suffer a wound as the spirit rips out of you, and you have a -4 penalty to your wound threshold until you make a recovery test after an hour of rest.
Yes.
So, badass. Like anything badass.
Now, I do want to reiterate what I think I probably have mentioned in some of the earlier episodes when we were talking about binding spells.
Mm-hmm.
The circumstances, the required behaviors for the binding spells, in some cases do not necessarily require the character affected by them to behave that way for the entire duration of the spell, especially if it's a combat-related thing where they need to go after an opponent. If there are no more opponents, then the fight is clearly over and the spirit will depart without inflicting that because its purpose has been served.
Yes. Okay.
Depending on the circumstances, there are other binding spells where that sort of thing may not apply, but for Mark of the Boar, if you are clearly at the end of the fight, if all of the enemies are downed or whatever, but you've still got duration on the spell left, you do not need to continue to behave that way.
Gotcha.
It's intended to be a little bit of a difficulty thing, but it's not supposed to, because the more powerful the shaman is, the longer it's going to last, and that really shouldn't end up being that there's more likely going to be a penalty that's going to result from the spell ending up doing what it was designed or intended to do.
Okay. So we got the last two, and these also look pretty sweet. Mountain Goat Leap.
This is another spell that enhances other character abilities. This one provides a bonus to, surprise, surprise, Great Leap.
Great Leap. Yeah. Also a pack spell, also a spirit spell. Yep. So you can cast this on more than one person at a time. And who doesn't love Great Leap? I mean,
and it allows people who don't otherwise have the Great Leap talent to use Great Leap.
So this is what you can cast on your Obsidian who can't swim.
Sure.
Get them over the river instead of through it. So that's not a bad idea. And then Soothe the Savage Beast, which of course is a oft-loved phrase.
This is a short-term animal friendship spell.
Mm-hmm.
Cast on the target, and if successful, they become completely passive. They will no longer attack for any reason while the spell is in effect, but if the target of the spell is attacked, then the spell ends. So it is not a way to get a creature to sit quietly while you hack it to bits.
No.
And if you get a really, really good success on it, it kind of has the side effect of making the creature, the animal that is targeted by it, really like the effect and kind of follow the shaman around for a little bit afterwards. It is something that could conceivably, because of the extended duration on those really good successes, result in maybe a way to start building a rapport with an animal for a potential animal companion.
Yeah, that doesn't sound bad. So let's try what we did for the first circle with the second circle. Which one of these do you think would be the most advantageous to pick up at first circle? That way, when you can cast it at second, you're good to go.
Hero's Feast. Assuming that your group doesn't have a spellcaster that has access to other good healing enhancing magic, Hero's Feast is probably the one that I would look at as an early target to learn, because the bonuses to healing that it can provide are pretty nice. The others are all decent utility.
Yeah.
And which ones would be
Ferocity, Mark of
most
the Bear.
useful probably will depend on the makeup of your group. Ferocity probably won't be as important if you don't really have any unarmed combat characters in the group.
Yep.
Mark of the Boar can be nice if your group is in a situation where they are going to potentially be taking more damage and potentially wounds, because it can turn those negatives into a positive in some respects. So yeah, no, all decent spells all the way around.
Yeah, just a matter of what campaign you're in and the makeup of your group as to which ones are the most useful first. Other than that, there's 15 total spells, and
16.
I think 16. Sorry, 2.
Yeah, I think you kept sort of missing Mountain Goat Leap where it's at the top of the next page and not counting.
I did. But out of those 16, 8 spells are 0 threads. So that's half. So that's a pretty good ratio there for things you can cast pretty quickly and have available in the Matrix.
Yeah.
So
And then everything else except for Alarm is 1 thread, which means that when you get to Journeyman and get that enhanced Matrix, all of these are castable in a single
quite
round.
accessible. Exactly. Any further thoughts on the Magician Discipline Shaman spells?
No.
Yeah, I like how these all turned out.
Yeah, I'm looking.
I like what they cobbled from the other disciplines to throw into this little kit.
Yeah, I mean there were spells that absolutely from previous editions were absolutely suited to the theme of the shaman, and I believe were on the shaman spell list from previous editions.
For a good reason.
But shifting the shaman to be what it is in 4th edition and to approach it the way that we did to redeem some of the aspects that, looking back now 25 years later,
Some odd. Yep.
are a little bit potentially troublesome. I like them.
I'm all down for it. And the companion the Mystic Paths book has shaman spells up through 8th circle. And I'm pretty sure that Morgan's working on all 5 disciplines for the
he revealed back
book.
at FredoniaCon earlier this year that the Mystic Paths, the Deeper Secrets book, is going to have spells for all 5 magician disciplines.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that book as well. And I have a feeling that'll be a very successful Kickstarter because people like the magician spells. Not going to lie.
No release date or anything yet on that Kickstarter. Speaking of Kickstarters...
No time soon. But yes, we have a Kickstarter.
Speaking of Kickstarters, if you skipped the short announcement that I posted last week about our week off, Facet Games launched, as of this posting, a little over a week ago, the Kickstarter for the first game in the new Aetherstream setting, which is a sci-fi space opera setting. It's a tabletop board game. It's a minis game.
Oh, cool.
Drawing inspiration from earlier FASA board minis games like Battletech and Crimson Skies and Renegade Legion and so forth.
Nice.
And is supposed to be a relatively fast-playing kind of shoot 'em up like squadron versus squadron fighter game with a whole kind of setting that is going to be grown and developed around it, and hopefully other games to come down the line to provide enhancements and expansions in a similar way that Battletech and Renegade Legion and things like that had their own expansions and whatnot that were done.
Totally.
So if you haven't checked it out, go check that out. I'm sure you can find the links on any of the fastest social media. You can find it. I share it in my own as well. Or you can just go to Kickstarter.com, search for Aetherstream, or search for Facet Games, and you should be able to locate it. There's options to, in addition to backing for the entire basic box, there will also be options, there should also be options to just back to get a copy of the rulebook alone if you don't want to get all of the minis and all of the other stuff that goes along with it.
Yeah.
Then that is an option as well. But yeah, help us out. This is something that's been being worked on for a while, and my only real contribution to it is the video that I produced for the Kickstarter, because for a board game, and we had prototypes for the playing pieces and various other things, we wanted to kind of show people what was going on.
Cool. By the way, spelled AETHER, stream. Just to make sure if you're doing a search for it, you spell it correctly. Because otherwise you might not get the right hits. But otherwise, folks, that is our podcast on Shaman Spells and some emails. If you have any questions for us, not dragon related, because it's too late for that now. But any other questions about anything else, you always get them to us later on.
You can send emails with dragon-related questions. They just aren't going to be answered in the Dragons episode.
Part 1. Maybe we'll hold on to them for Part 2. Maybe even a Part 3. Who knows? Dragons could go for a while. We'll see what happens. Until next time, folks, it is your turn to go find your spirit and your pack and bind it together and make your own legend.
Good night, everybody.